Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to DST. My name is JT.
And my name is Brett.
And today we're going to be touching on a few specific topics for Detroit sports. Specifically, we're going to be diving into the Tigers, the Lions, and we're going to touch on the NBA Finals again. So we're just going to get right into it. The Tigers have just completed their series against Boston. They're traveling today. They're going to Arizona to play against the Diamondbacks in what I think is a 3-game series. They had a series at home against the Angels and against Boston. Was that on the road as well?
On the road, yes.
Yeah, so we home series against Angels last week and a away series against Boston. And during that time, they honestly, 2 wins?
I believe so, yeah. 2 out of 6.
Yep, and so once again, the question is rising for these Tigers is when are they going to put a real run together and really start to make it gel for them?
Honestly, Pat, over this last series against the Angels and the Red Sox, very lackluster, I would say, to say the least. The starting pitching staff really didn't do very well. The bullpen, especially in the Red Sox series, was just terrible. I believe they let up 13 runs in 10 innings pitched or something like that in the Red Sox series. So very bad overall. The offense was up and down throughout the series. There was a couple games where they came alive, but a couple games where they were just nowhere to be found.
So today, I thought it would be best for us to break down what are the main what is the biggest problem with the Tigers, in your opinion, Brett?
In my opinion, I would say it's more than one thing.
But if you had to pick one, because I'm pretty sure we can say all three facets of this team, from offense to defense to pitching, is all struggling. But what is the number one thing in your opinion?
I would say pitching, specifically the bullpen. The bullpen has been very, like I said, in this last series, has been very lackluster. They had a very great month of May, which for a lot of Tigers fans, it almost seemed like, wow, this bullpen actually isn't half bad. Maybe they have something to show here. If the lineup, the offense can score some runs, if the starting pitching staff can come around a little bit, and the bullpen can kind of hold it down like they did in the month of May, maybe they can put something together. You never know.
Well, see, this is where I disagree with you 100% because I think that the bullpen is not the biggest problem. I think it relies on your starting pitching and your inconsistent offense. Sure, the bullpen's going to struggle. We know that. The bullpen's not a great bullpen. But since K-Rod's been demoted and we've kind of gotten some decently defined positions for Justin and Alex and Green, that we've kind of seen a better bullpen. So I disagree with you heavily that you think that the bullpen pitching is the problem when we have 7 starts now out of the last 29 games where we've only seen a Detroit Tigers starting pitcher go 7 innings, and none of those 7 starts were ever an 8th inning pitch was thrown. So, going into the season that this is your last shot at it. And so, how could you just pitch so poorly when you know your entire pitching staff needs to step up for this to be the last season? You know that, all right, we got a bad bullpen. It's not going to be the best. So we got to do our best to go deeper into games, and we need to be trying to get every out possible and conserving as many pitches as we can.
All right, well, like I said, I think it's not just the bullpen, it's the pitching in general. Like I said, you can blame it on every part of this team. Every team has been up and down throughout the years. Some of them have been down for the entire year, but it's the pitching in general. Like, I do agree with you from the starting pitching staff being lackluster and not doing their job, knowing we don't have a good bullpen, but at the same time, it doesn't take any less heat off the bullpen. The bullpen has been just as bad, in my opinion. Like I said, they had a great month of May, and let me just get some ERAs for you here in the month of May. So starting with Shane Green, who's...
Well, actually, before we do that, let's steer away from that, because in a second I want to touch on... Well, actually, let's just get right into it. I want to break down all of our bullpen pitchers, and I want to get some ERAs, some statistics on them, and I want to hear what you think, if they're good or if they're not. So let's just get right into it. We can start with Shane Green.
All right, so as I was saying, first I'm going to tell you about the ERAs, because we all know for bullpen pitchers, the main thing that matters is ERAs. I mean, that tells how many runs they're letting up and everything like that, and basically if they're a good bullpen pitcher or not. So starting off in just the month of May, this is their ERA just for the month of May. And like I said, they had a great month of May. We're one of the best bullpens actually in the month of May. And so Shane Green, starting with Shane Green, who, as I said, is no doubt our best bullpen pitcher this year. He's been very good, and for the month of May, his ERA was a 1.76. Outstanding in my opinion. Next is our closer, Justin Wilson. His ERA was a 3.97 for the month of May. Not terrible, but definitely not great in my opinion. 3.97 ERA isn't something that's great for a reliever, especially for a closer, in my opinion. So moving on to Alex Wilson, he had a 1.32 ERA over the month of May. Definitely great. He was one of the best bullpen pitchers we had in the month of May. Every time he went out there, shut him down. Next was Warwick Sappold. Only pitched 6.1 innings. Didn't let up any runs, but small sample size, so not much you can say there. Leone only had 1 inning pitch, didn't let up any runs.
He shouldn't even be up here.
So again, small sample size. Chad Bell, another small sample size, only 10 innings.
He should be up here.
Only 10 innings, had a 2.70 ERA, was great in the month of May, was kind of in and out of the lineup, AAA to the majors due to injuries and a few other reasons. Anibal Sanchez, as you guys all know, was demoted to the bullpen, now down in AAA, but during the month of May, he was in the bullpen. I'm sure all you guys know he was terrible. Every time he went out there, was going to let up at least 1 home run, it almost seemed like every time. He had a 7.11 ERA, like I said, very bad. Blaine Hardy had a 4.82 ERA, definitely not good. And then K-Rod finishes it off with a 10.57 ERA, which is just the worst by far. So overall, the month of May, let's say you get rid of K-Rod out of there. Then basically it's just Sanchez and Hardy were the only two that really didn't do great. So as I said, the month of May, Tigers had a great bullpen.
Yeah, and also you do need to touch on when those players are pitching. Normally we're not taking them in to the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. Normally that's going to be when you need someone to eat up innings. So even then, it's those 2 pitchers out of the bullpen. They suck, but normally if we're putting them in those games.
Right. But the job doesn't change. You're still going out there. Your job is to get 3 outs.
Your job is to get 3 outs, but at the same time, it's if you cost the team the game, you cost the team the game. But if you let up 1 run, it can be the equivalent of 10 runs if you're not ever going to win that game.
All right. So next we'll talk about some ERAs for the last 30 games. So the month of May will still be included a little bit in here, but we're gonna do a kind of a last 30 games sample size. So starting again with Shane Green, still was great. He's been great all season, like I said, best bullpen pitcher. He came in with a 2.30 ERA over the last 30 games. Like I said, nothing wrong with that. Sappold, last 30 games, had a 2.19 ERA. Surprisingly, that's not half bad. As we all know right now, he's doing terrible, but over the last 30 games, his ERA isn't half bad. Anibal Sanchez only pitched 2.1 innings over the last 30 games. We all know there's a reason for that. He's down in AAA, but didn't let up any runs, so 0.00 ERA. One of our new guys we've brought up recently is Daniel Stump. Over the 2 innings he pitched, again, small sample size, but he has a 9.00 ERA. Definitely not impressive at all. Justin Wilson, 4.35 ERA. Definitely not impressive, not for your closer. Alex Wilson, 4.11 ERA. Again, not very impressive. Over the last couple series, he's been struggling mightily. I believe it was it against the Red Sox, the second game of the series when he let up all those runs, I believe it was. And then Leone has been just, I don't even know why he's up here, to be honest. We gave him a shot, see what he could do. He's been awful. I don't know why he's still up here. But he came in with a 12.15 ERA. As we all know, yesterday he came in and blew the game up. So he's been terrible.
You know who he reminds me of? I was listening to 97.1 The Ticket, and this is the perfect comparison. Did you watch the play where he goes to throw to first base and he throws it right into the dirt?
Yep.
That, you know what that was? That was the Daniel Orlovsky 0-16 season running out of the back of the end zone. That was his defining moment, and he will forever be remembered on this Tigers team. And that's his Orlovsky moment. He's our Orlovsky.
I can agree with that, and I honestly, if he's our Orlovsky, then he shouldn't see the majors again this season, and he's definitely proven that he shouldn't be up here. So as we keep going. Three more relief pitchers to go for the last 30 games. Chad Bell, only 7.1 innings pitched. He's been up and down from AAA to the majors, but a 3.68 ERA. Not terrible, but not great.
I like his stuff, though.
Yeah, stuff's not bad. He's definitely got potential. I mean, with this bullpen, anybody that's doing well, might as well bring him up here. Francisco Rodriguez, 4.50 ERA, terrible. And then Blaine Hardy finishes it off with a 6.48, who's down in AAA right now. Again, terrible.
All right, though. So, I do want to get into something. So, as we've documented already, Shane Green has what's his ERA right now?
His ERA right now is, hold on, let me pull up the stats real quick. His ERA right now is a 1.82.
All right, so I don't want to take away Justin Wilson's role because I think he fits very well into it.
Agreed.
But do you think it's time to maybe move Green up into maybe the 8th inning role as the setup man?
You said bring him up to the 8th inning role?
Yeah.
I say possibly.
Because, you have Alex as the 8th, Justin as the 9th.
Right. I say possibly. I say not yet. He's definitely proven that
because this has almost been over a season now because he got moved to the bullpen last year and the second half he was a stud in the bullpen. So this is kind of like the second. This isn't like a flash in the pan. We've kind of seen this for a little while now.
Right. Like I said, I think possibly. I think you got to give it more time. Like I said, Alex Wilson, he's been up and down throughout this season. Recently, he's down. He's struggling with his command a little bit. He's leaving a lot of stuff over the plate. He's not really getting the movement on his pitches like he should be. And like Shane Green's been outstanding all year. I've said it, I think, 3 or 4 times already in this podcast. He's been our best, most reliable pitcher. Every time he comes out there, I know he's going to get the job done. So I think right now I would keep him in the 7th spot and keep Alex Wilson in the 8th. And if it gets worse for Alex Wilson, if he doesn't come back up, then I definitely think you got to think about switching.
I just want to flash a statistic for you. So, barring the terrible defense that always seems to plague the Tigers, and yet again in every game where Nick Castellanos plays at third base, or JD can't get a pop fly in the outfield, 82 innings pitched over 29 games for the Detroit Tigers bullpen. During that time, posting a 1.78 ERA. So if that is not a statistic of improvement, sure, it is going to...
And over what time is that exactly?
That is from early May, May 7th, going to the last series that we just finished up with Boston. Yes, granted, it was a good month. They have taken a step back this month. But let's say that finishes at a 2.5, a 3 ERA. 3 ERA with an offense that supposedly should be a caliber number 1. Rookie of the year, Michael Fulmer. Boyd and Norris should have taken a step up. Zimmerman should be doing it better, no matter what anyone says. He should be ready to take a step. And Buck Farmer, surprisingly, let's say Norris and Boyd figure out what they're doing. You move Buck Farmer to the bullpen, or you move Boyd to the bullpen, something like that. That automatically increases your bullpen. That almost doubles.
See, I don't think you can do that though. I don't think you can put Farmer in the bullpen after how well he's pitching. I don't think you can put Boyd in the bullpen because what we're trying to do with Boyd, Norris, and you can make the argument for even Fulmer or Farmer now. We're trying to make. They're still young, obviously. They're still learning. We're trying to make them into quality starting pitchers. So demoting him to the bullpen to me wouldn't be right because, like Shane Green, we put him in the bullpen because he wasn't doing great starting pitching. And now he's doing good as a reliever, but he's not going to be coming back as a starting pitcher. He's going to be just a reliever. But you can't do that with Boyd and Norris and
But at
Farmer.
the same time, if you have the chance to make the playoffs, right, no matter how bad we seem...
But the thing is, hold on, let me stop you right there. It's not even worth it. Because if you make the playoffs, we're going to get bounced in the first round, no matter who you play. Because it all comes down to starting pitching.
Exactly.
Pitching gets the job done, and we don't have that.
But, exactly, here's the thing is, so let's say Boyd continues to be up and down. Struggle with command.
Sure.
Can't seem to get it working. You put him in the bullpen for the end of the year. You give yourself a little bit better chance in the bullpen if you need someone to eat up some innings. You have Buck Farmer as your 5th guy. That gives you a better chance. One of those two. What I'm saying is not. I'm not saying like right now we'd move one of them there permanently, but if need be, if we had a shot at to go to the playoffs, that would have to happen with one of those two pitchers. And I think we can both agree on that. We wouldn't have 6 starters.
Right.
All right. We could even move one more guy to the bullpen from that starting rotation. That would amplify that. But again, this falls on JV himself, the leaders of this team that should be doing a lot more work, I feel. When JV just hasn't been JV all year. I
can agree with that.
He has a career high in WHIP. His strikeouts are at the lowest it's ever been. He's given up more home runs than ever before, and he just doesn't seem to have it. In stud versus stud game against Chris Sale, who's one of the best pitchers in the American League this year, he went 5 innings and 3 runs, and in a game that they desperately needed to win, mind you, and they couldn't. They needed Friday night JV. They needed the stud to get up on.
I agree. But the thing is, what were the stats on that again? JV's line?
That was 5 innings pitched, 3 runs.
Okay. In my opinion, is that great? Absolutely not. But is it terrible? No, it's not terrible. So the thing that MLB says that considers a quality start by major league starters is going at least 6 and letting up 3 or less runs.
Yes.
So he went 5 and let up 3 or less. So that's almost a quality start. Again, do I totally agree with the quality start thing, how they base it, how the MLB looks at it? I don't.
It should be 7 innings in my mind. 7 innings, you've done a quality start, set up man closer, call the game.
I agree, but at the same time, the game's changing. Now you got these bullpen arms that can come in and throw 99, 100, that can pitch an inning or 2 a game. And so the game's changing. Now for all these MLB teams, it's almost like a standard. You have a starting pitcher that goes 6 innings, right? And then you have a setup, a reliever, like a setup before the setup man. So in this case, a Shane Green.
Yep.
And then you got an 8th inning guy, in this case, Alex Wilson. And then your closer, obviously, in this case, would be Justin Wilson. So you have... To have a solid bullpen, or to have a great bullpen, in my opinion, you got to have at least those. You got to have those guys right there that can.
Those are your building blocks, yes.
Right.
But at the same time, we're talking about nowadays baseball. The Tigers aren't a nowadays baseball team now.
Yeah, but they have to learn to adapt.
Exactly, which will start after this year, and I think we can both agree.
But
on
after
that.
this year, it's going downhill. And the thing is, we start after this year. But if let's say at the trade deadline, let's just say that we trade anybody possible. Let's just say we trade, Kinsler. Let's say we trade JD, and let's say we trade JV or Miggy, one of those two. Let's just say, that's a long shot, but let's say it happens. Obviously, we're getting younger. That's what we're looking for. We're wanting to get younger. We're getting rid of these high contracts, these older veteran guys that are struggling.
Yep.
We want to get younger. So the thing is, as we've already seen with Norris and Boyd, they are still learning. Their average amount of innings they go is about 5-6 innings, because their pitch count gets so high so quick. As we saw last night, Norris, I don't know how many pitches he threw exactly, but I think it was probably close to 100 because he went, 5 or 6 innings?
5 innings, 2 earned runs.
5 innings. And I was watching it around the 4th inning. I know he was already at 70. So the thing is, his pitch count gets up quick, and that's Boyd is the same way. And Fulmer's been doing better this year about that, but he's still learning. It's only his 2nd full season.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is, it's like this isn't a normal MLB team. You have to play to your strengths. Your strengths should be your pitching, not your pitching staff. It should be your hitting. You're not hitting right now. All right, well, we can all agree that you're not hitting to where you should be. Miggy has over 120 MLB at-bats this season now with 1 home run. That is terrible numbers. You have V-Mart, who's slugging terrible. Nick can't hit the ball. He's starting to come out of it a little bit. But at the same time, this lies on JV, it lies on Miggy, and it lies on Osmus and Alavila.
So let me ask you a question real quick. How much to blame do you think it is for the offense? How much blame do you put on the offense?
70%.
70%? All right, well, let me show you these couple stats I found here. So this is all season long through our first, about 60 games we played so far. So this is for just our batting, just our offense. So we are 10th in the league in total hits. We are 3rd in total doubles, 2nd in total triples, 8th in total home runs, 3rd in total runs batted in, 6th in on-base percentage, 4th in slugging percentage, believe it or not, 2nd in walks drawn, and 2nd in fly ball outs.
See, that doesn't surprise me just because
But the thing is, those numbers are good. We're top 10 for every single offensive thing. And so to me, the offense does have some blame. Don't get me wrong, because you have guys like Nick and you have guys like Miggy and Vmart who are all struggling. But at the same time, as a team, I don't put as much blame as 70% on the offense. Definitely not.
I think it has to be 70% because I feel like that's one of the skewed statistics you can find in baseball.
What more do you want, though?
Let me tell you. Well, because one night I can watch them hit the hell out of a ball, and I can watch them play long balls, 6, 7, 8 runs, 9, 10, 11, 12 runs.
Yep.
And then I can go through a stretch where I'm watching 1-0 loss to the Astros. I'm watching
That's a good team.
You're right, a good team. A 3-0 loss to another team.
Yep.
You're getting you can't hit Mike Pelfrey for the White Sox who is just a stud, right?
Yep. So they go through some slumps. Obviously, every team goes through their ups and downs. But the thing is, with all that you just said, to be top 10 in every one of those categories I just listed, which there isn't very, very many more categories that show offense and how good your offense is. I mean, these are 10 right here that show. If you looked at these top 10, all these stats right here and said Tigers are in top 10 for every single one, I would take it. I would have no problem taking that.
But the problem is who's scoring the runs to me. See,
it doesn't matter. As long as runs are on the board, they're on the board. It doesn't matter who scores them.
But there comes a time where the guys that are supposed to be scoring runs for you have to step up. Like, all right, bases loaded last night against Boston, I think, was it, right? And I don't think we scored a run until Upton. I think it was the second time we went up with the bases loaded.
And he hit a grand slam.
Right? So we'll do that, but I would like to find a statistic, if you could find one for us in a moment here, of with bases loaded, I want to know how many runs we get. Because the game I was at against the Angels, I think it was the third inning we went up. It was when Buck Farmer pitched. Bases loaded, no outs. We proceeded to get 1 run thanks to a Vmart ground ball double play. So, yeah, we're getting the runs across, but at the same time, I can't stand that, like, it's an inconsistent offense.
It is, yeah.
And let's not forget, they can't click on all cylinders. Yeah, you're right. They'll hit, but then they won't pitch. But then they'll pitch, and they won't hit.
Right, so that's the problem. And I got a couple stats here about pitching as well through the first 60 games. So pitching, like I said, to me, I think we can both agree, pitching is one of the main problems here. Bullpen,
yes,
and starting pitching,
yes.
So we are 14th in ERA at a 4.62. We are 10th in strikeouts at a 425. We are 8th in walks given up in 186. We are 6th in home runs allowed with 73.
Yes.
14th in OBS or OBP, and then 14th in WHIP. So obviously those stats speak for themselves. The pitching has not been good, and to me, that is something where you could put a 70% blame on something like that. To me, when you look at batting and we're all in the top 10, I mean, for the most part, it's getting the job done. To me, it's the pitching. Because, yeah, you can score all those runs you want, but at the same time, when you got starting pitchers with ERAs like 4.68 for JV and 5.72 for Zimmerman, 3.4 for Fulmer, which is great, 4.41 for Norris, 5.69 for Boyd. I mean, that's not going to get the job done. It starts with pitching. Your lineup can hit all at once, but it starts with pitching. So to put 70% blame on the offense, to me, I don't agree with.
All right, so pie out your deals for me. Who's to blame? How much percentage are you going to put on it?
So you're talking from an offense perspective?
The whole team. Let's start with we'll start with offense.
Let's see. I'm trying to think this over in my head real quick. So basically, it would be between the offense, the starting pitching, the bullpen, and the management.
Yes.
And so to me, I would say starting pitching is about half, in my opinion.
So 50%.
About 40 to 50%, in my opinion.
Okay.
And then the bullpen isn't far behind. I would say it's about 30%, followed by the management and offense. I think, like I said, the offense, yes, it's been up and down throughout the years, or throughout the season, but if I had to look at somebody, between those four, if I was placing blame, batting the offense wouldn't be something I would look at and be like terrible. Yes, if you went and looked at guys like Miggy and Vmart and Castellanos and even Kinsler for that point, and Iglesias as well. Yes, they're underperforming, and those are your big guys you're giving the most amount of money to. But at the same time, you've had guys like Hicks and Presley and Adusi and Avila and all these even Machado's not doing half bad. These guys that have stepped up and really helped. Even Romine's not doing half bad.
I'll agree, especially for a bench player. I'll agree with you there, but.
So they've stepped up and they've got the job done. Yes, the big guys aren't getting the job done at the moment, but we never know, that could change. At the same time, if you're getting runs across, you're getting runs across. You can't complain that much. And for a pitching staff, which just like the offense has a ton of money put into it, just between JV and Zim alone has that much money. And between the both of them, they've got a 10 ERA combined.
Agreed.
That's saying something right there.
I'll agree with you on that. All right. So, now we are going to get into some interesting news that we found out about the Detroit Lions. And we're going to be breaking down their schedule. So, Tate recently opened up when asked, does he feel underpaid? Because Julian Edelman of the New England Patriots just signed a pretty big deal. Well, not a huge deal.
Two-year contract extension. Not entirely sure how much it was worth, but I know it was a 2-year extension.
Yeah, but he got paid a pretty good amount of time, and mind you, that's a dynasty team right there with one of the best quarterbacks of all time and one of the greatest coaches of all time.
Yep.
So, when asked, Golden Tate replied, "Does he feel underpaid?" He said, "Yup." And so, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think Tate is right to feel underpaid? And do you think that the Lions should be giving him a contract extension?
Honestly, I'm kind of in the middle here. Golden Tate has always been one to speak his mind. He's never been one to just kind of sit back and not say anything, kind of like Calvin Johnson was. But at the same time, Julian Edelman, to me, and Golden Tate are similar. But Julian Edelman has obviously proven himself more because he's in a system like the Patriots. So with Matt Patricia and that team, Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick and everybody in that staff, they know how to put these players in the right positions and kind of play to their strengths. And when you have a QB like Tom Brady, when you have a solid run game, I mean, everybody looks good on that offense. So to me, to give Edelman an extension, I think how can you not? He's been a big part of your team the last number of years. It's only a 2-year extension.
I feel like he's so undervalued too. I feel like he's a top 15 receiver.
But the thing is, I can agree, but I can disagree as well. If you put him on a team on some other team, it's different.
Product of the system.
If you put Tate on the Patriots, he'd be a top 10 wide receiver in my opinion.
I feel like him and Julian Edelman would be almost getting the same lines.
Right. So it's a product of the system. Mm-hmm. To me, Tate, I don't know how much he's making right now or how much he has on his contract left. I'm not entirely sure.
We paid him a lot.
Yeah, we definitely did. I'm not sure how many years he has left on that and how much money he's still getting owed.
He signed a 5-year, $31 million contract with the Lions, including an $8 million signing bonus. $16 million of it is guaranteed.
Which isn't terrible, but the thing is, Tate, he was average last year. He wasn't anything special. He was supposed to, when we signed Marvin Jones, he was still young, and many weren't sure how he was going to come in here and was he going to learn the playbook right away and how great he was going to do. And so basically a lot of people are looking at Tate as our number one guy. And obviously we all know Tate is undersized. He's not a big guy. He's not a guy you're going to throw the ball up to and have him go get it. He's a guy that's going to beat the corner, beat the safety, and get you on some routes.
I'm going to disagree with you wholeheartedly here. I feel like Tate I feel like he was a top 10 receiver last year. I feel like he got the job done. When the Lions needed him most, kid stepped up. The kid's hungry. He likes to win. That's my favorite thing about him is that he likes to win. As we all know, not a flawless season if you're looking at it overall. But let's talk about why the Lions made the playoffs. And it started with...
Oh, yeah, he had a big part to do with it, don't get me wrong. And I mean, great player. I love the guy.
He leads the league in yards after the catch. I think last season as well. So that's 2 seasons in a row. The guy can run when given open space.
Yeah, to me, and getting back to your part about should they give him a contract extension, I think you got to base it off this season, to be honest. I think you got to figure out kind of how he goes out this season and what he does, and does he put up similar numbers to the last couple of years, and then how much money does he want? Because we just drafted a guy in Kenny Galloway who many are saying right now. I mean, granted, it's only training camps, not even mandatory training camps yet, and he hasn't faced he hasn't been in live game situations. But at the same time, apparently, according to the analysts, he's been doing pretty well. And so if he goes out this season and kind of overperforms, and then everybody's perspectives and does well, and Golden Tate kind of doesn't really do great, I think you got to really take a step back and kind of think about this and really decide if because as you know, Stafford is due for a pay as well, and Ansa's right behind him. So if it becomes between those 3 guys, I think you got to pay Stafford and Ansa before you pay Tate, in my opinion. Ansa number 1. And then, depending on how he goes this season. But Stafford, I would take Ansa and Stafford of a contract extension before I would do Tate.
All right, well, let me throw some numbers your way, and you tell me what you think about them. So since signing with the Detroit Lions in 2014, Tate has caught at least 90 passes every year. During the past 3 seasons, Tate is number 6 in NFL receptions with 280 and 10th in receiving yards. He's also the NFL leader in yards after the catch since 2014 with 1,831 yards. And statistically, by Pro Football Focus, they have him breaking or missing a total of 73 tackles, which also ranks number 1 in wide receivers. So, Tate was then asked, how do you feel? Do you feel like you're underpaid? He goes, yes. He goes, yep, definitely. And then he basically said, I would love to stay here. I'm having a lot of fun. We have a great foundation. I love what we're going to do. I love seeing where we're going. I've still got time. He also did say that contract extensions are in talks, but it is, quote, a long ways away as far as I'm concerned. And then they asked him how you feel about finishing your career in Detroit. He said, yes, definitely. I would love to stay here as long as the guys want me here. Like I said, I'm having fun. We're starting to win games, and that's important. Bob Quinn, Rob Wood, Caldwell, and Jim Bob want me around. I'll stay around as long as they'll have me. So, he wants to be here. He's, in my opinion, the heart and soul of this team. I feel like they thrive off of his energy. And so, I feel like he's the catalyst to the offense.
I can agree with that from some perspective. I don't totally agree with you on the fact that he's the heart and soul of this team. I think more of, even though Stafford's had his up and downs, I still say you got to put it in the QB. To me, there's no Tate if there's no Stafford. So to me, I think Stafford is kind of the heart and soul of the team. Basically, I mean, we make the playoffs based off what the QB does. I mean, obviously everybody has a huge part in making the playoffs. But if you don't have a solid QB, look at all the teams in the league that don't have a solid QB. If you don't have a solid QB, you can kiss the playoffs goodbye. You might as well try to get a top 10 draft pick at that point.
Well,
and we have a solid QB.
Texans, Brock Osweiler.
Yeah,
it's proven that I honestly think the reason you make the playoffs based on defense. I think the Lions kind of fell into that last year.
I'm saying, like, every part of the team has a huge role in making whether or not you make the playoffs. But I'm talking from an offensive perspective. If you look at it, you don't make the playoffs based on a wide receiver. We saw that with Kelvin Johnson. We make the playoffs based off what your QB does. And to me, that's why I think Stafford is the heart and soul of this team. So, as I was saying earlier, I would give him a contract extension before I'd give Tate.
Yeah, all right. Well, in my opinion, see what he does this year and go from there.
Agreed.
Moving on, we are going to be breaking down the Detroit Lions 2017 schedule. And it's kind of a tough schedule. It's kind of not. Statistically, it's not. They have one of the easier schedules if you're looking at wins, losses for last year.
I feel it's pretty tough, personally.
I also feel it's one of those schedules that if you're looking at win, losses based on last year, it's not that bad. But a lot of teams had a down year last year. So I feel like that's kind of like a skewed stat that we'd be looking at. So let's just get into it. I'll ask you what your thoughts are game by game. So week 1, we have Cardinals, 1 p.m. at home.
Honestly, what we saw with the Cardinals 2 years ago, they were almost an unbeatable team. It seemed like a lot of people had them winning, at least going to the Super Bowl. And then last year, Carson Palmer was really, I'm not really sure what happened to him last year. He was not the same Carson Palmer we're used to. I say this is a toss-up, to be honest. You can go either way. I'm going to say opening day, I'm going to say it's a loss, to be honest. I think it's going to be tough for our defense to stop a guy like David Johnson and Larry Fitzgerald and those type of guys. Especially, you don't know if Palmer's going to come back and have a bounce-back season. He's nearing the end of his career, so I feel like he has that kind of that fire, that passion to kind of give it one last shot. So I feel like we're going to take a loss. What's your thought on that?
Definitely, like, with a lot of 50-50 games, I never like to pick the Lions just because I feel like they always the SOL, same old Lions, they always find a way to lose it. But I liked the draft class. I'm not going to lie. I thought we had a lot of nice additions. Barring injuries, I think that we're either going to win in a tight game or lose it. So I'm going to go with opening day. We're going to get like a 3-point win on them. So I don't like ever taking the Lions. I got Lions by 3.
Okay.
Moving on. Game 2 at New York Giants. 8:30.
Lost to me. I think the Giants, they were a great team last year. Got better in the offseason. You're at New York, and Lions don't play great on the road, especially. Is it an outdoor stadium, I believe?
Outdoor stadium, Monday night, prime time.
Yeah, that says SOL right there.
Yep.
So not really a lot of discussion here. I think the Lions lose that one.
All right, so we got them at 1-1 right now. Moving on to at home against Atlanta.
Another tough game for the Lions. Even though it's a home game, you're facing the defending Super Bowl champs. How are you going to stop a guy like Julio Jones? How are you going to stop a guy like Devontae Freeman? How are you going to stop a guy like Matt Ryan?
Exactly. They have a very high caliber offense and a stout defense.
Yeah, you're not. I mean, we saw at least in the first half of that Super Bowl last year, even the Patriots couldn't stop them.
Yep.
So if the Patriots can't stop them in the first half, what makes you think a Lions team can stop them for the whole game? Loss.
All right. So 1-2 going on. We go to the Vikings. 1 p.m. start time,
and that's at Minnesota. I'm gonna give us our first win here in this one. I think Minnesota, as we all saw, they started off the season great last year. Stan Bradford, who they traded for when Teddy Bridgewater went down, was playing out of his mind. A lot of people jumped on the bandwagon quick and said playoffs automatically. We all saw that go downhill very quick. I'm going to take a win here. I think the Lions get it done on the road against Minnesota.
All right. Well, I sadly can't agree with you there. I feel like they're gonna, because even last year with that terrible team, Minnesota made it close so many times, and I gotta see one more season of consistency out of this team before I can believe in anything. So I'm gonna go with Vikings, pulling this one out. So I got them still at 1-3 now. So next game we're playing against the Panthers, who are looking to have a bounce back season after missing the playoffs at home.
I'm going to take another win here on that one. I'm going to take a 2-game win streak here. As you said, bounce back season for the Panthers. Panthers fans are hoping for that. We saw the Panthers 2 years ago. Again, defending Super Bowl champs. As many would say, they had kind of a Super Bowl hangover last year. They got a guy in Calvin Benjamin
Let's not
back.
forget they didn't win the Super Bowl.
Right, but they made it to the Super Bowl, and a lot of people thought they got all cocky and, wow, we're this great team. Now we came out of nowhere. We were underdogs, and look at us. We made it all the way to the Super Bowl.
They got throttled.
And, yeah, they got destroyed. And now last season they were very, very lackluster. They had a good draft class. They drafted Christian McCaffrey to go along with Jonathan Stewart in that backfield. They got a guy like Curtis Samuel, who's a wide receiver / running back out of Ohio State.
I feel like it's going to take a year or two to see McCaffrey emerge as a good running back.
Yeah, I agree. And then Calvin Benjamin, he came back last year after missing the whole season before that with that ACL injury. Really didn't do a whole lot. Reports say he came into training camp extremely overweight, so there's a lot of issues going on there. I think Cam Newton is still a solid QB, but I don't think they're going to have a great season, so I'll take a Lions win there.
All right. So that would be placing the Lions at you probably I would have them at 3-2 or 2-3.
Okay.
And I think you'd have them at 3-3 or 3-2 now, right? Because you had them losing to the Cardinals, Giants. Okay, you'd have them at 3-2 or I'm sorry, you would have them at 2-3, and I would have them at 2-3. So we're both there now.
Okay.
We're at 2-3, and going into an interesting matchup, which is going to be possibly one of my favorite games to watch this year. We are going to be watching at New Orleans against the Saints with one of the best offenses in the game, who's going to be seeing some different looks this year with Adrian Peterson signing with them. And let's not forget, after the botched game against the Lions last year with just terrible play calling, underutilizing Drew Brees, what are we going to see out of this matchup?
I'm going to take another Lions loss here. I think the Saints, as we saw last year, play very well at home. They're a very tough team to beat at home. Their offense is one of the best in the league, no denying that. Yes, they lost a guy in Brandon Cooks, but they have an emerging wide receiver in Michael Thomas, who was drafted last year, was a rookie, had a great rookie season, big red zone threat. I think he steps into Cook's role and really takes that spot on along with Willie Snead. Then you got a guy, like you said, Adrian Peterson, who they bring in. Combine him with Mark Ingram and Drew Brees. I think you got a very tough offense to beat. Lions, their defense has been shaky over the last couple years. Some games they'll be great, some games they won't. They'll have a lot of injuries usually, and I'm going to take another loss here on the road. Having
them at 2-4, that's right where I'm going to put them. I think after the embarrassment that of last year when the Lions went in and we didn't watch a typical Drew Brees style of game. It was I really feel like it comes down to the play calling in that game, and I feel like they're going to be looking for revenge. I think they're going to throttle the Lions in this game, and it's going to be a pretty big blowout. So both got them at 2-4. Moving on to at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you got?
And
hang on, just so you know, 8:30 game.
And just so you guys know, Week 7. This is Week 8 against the Steelers. Week 7 was a bye week. So going into Week 8 against the Steelers at home in prime time, gonna take another loss here. Steelers, just like the Saints, have one of the most high-powered offenses in the league. You got a guy like Roethlisberger, bearing any injuries, of course. If Roethlisberger's healthy, you got a guy like Le'Veon Bell in the backfield who's virtually unstoppable. You got Martavis Bryant coming back from a year-long suspension. You got Antonio Brown in there. And to me, it's just, you got Jesse James, the tight end, a couple other solid tight ends, and another good wide receiver. The defense isn't terrible, but it's not great. But to me, I think that team is just too tough to beat, especially in prime time, so I'm going to give them another loss.
I do think it'll be a close game. I feel like the Steelers have so many targets with Brown, and you got Bell, you got Roethlisberger. I feel like the team sometimes goes MIA with trying to just find its own identity. It's trying to be too much, but I feel like in the end it'll be a close game. But I feel like it's gonna be a Steelers W. So we would now have the Lions sitting at that's Week 8, and that would be officially 5-2.
2-5.
Or 2-5. Sorry, yes, 2-5 after Week 8.
Yep.
Moving in to the second half, where I feel like things get a little bit easier, but man, I don't know how I'd feel being at 2-5. Looking forward to this season. Monday night, primetime game against the Packers.
Another loss here for the Lions. Again, prime time. Lions don't play great in prime time. It's their second week in a row they're playing prime time. Not to mention they're playing at Green Bay, which Green Bay struggled a little bit last year at the beginning of the season, and we saw that. But Aaron Rodgers really kicked it into full gear at the end of the season last year, rifling off all those wins and making it deep in the playoffs. And they also got better in the offseason. They signed a guy like Martellus Bennett.
That's a big pickup for him.
Yes, very big, very versatile, very quick for his position, tight end. That's a big target for Rodgers when you got a guy like Jordy Nelson in there as well and Randall Cobb. You got a guy in Ty Montgomery who was switched over to running back last season when they were in need of running backs. He actually really was surprising at the running back position. So they feel they have something there.
Definitely.
And their defense is going to be the biggest question, just like last year. They had a lot of injuries, and even without injuries, their defense wasn't great. but I
Agreed.
feel that the Lions won't get it done here at Green Bay.
All right, well, I think we got some W's coming up. Browns.
Browns. I think most of you guys
At
can agree.
home.
I think most of you guys can agree with this one. We're gonna take the Lions for a victory here. And this is a game. I think this is a very pivotal game right here. I think after starting off 2-6 is what we have them, I think a lot of people will start to question Jim Caldwell and is he on the hot seat?
There'll
and
be a lot of questions.
Should he go? How is Stafford gonna be performing in those 6 losses and those 2 wins? So how is the team gonna be looking? And so I think this is gonna be a very pivotal win. I think the Lions will come out against a Browns team that's not good at all, and I think they'll really show up and destroy them. So I'm gonna give them a win.
Agreed. I got a W for them. That would be putting them at 3-6 now. So we would have a 3-6 team entering the at Bears game, November 19th. That would be Thanksgiving, wouldn't it?
I believe so. It's either that week or
No.
next week.
It's the Thursday game against the Vikings. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's the Thanksgiving game.
All right. So, anyways, week 11 against the Bears at the Bears. I think we're gonna give them a win here. The Bears have been really the joke of the NFC North the last couple of years. As you guys know, Jay Cutler's gone off that team.
Trubisky mania.
Right. They have Trubisky, who they drafted, who, in my opinion, isn't that good of a QB.
I don't understand
think
where he came from.
He really got overhyped. Coming out of a school like North Carolina, which is known for basketball, not football, he only started 13 games in his college
But Ryan
career.
Tannehill.
Yeah. Even with that, I just don't see Trubisky really even doing great this year, especially on a Bears
He's
team,
gonna do so
which
bad.
doesn't really have a good run game. They have wide receivers that not a lot of people. They signed Victor Cruz, but he's coming off.
Oh my god!
He's coming off injuries.
He'll
and he's
get
old.
injured. He's old. He had one touchdown
they
last
got
year.
guys like Cameron Meredith who showed flashes of some decency last season.
You know who they do have though?
Who's
that running back?
Jordan Howard.
Jordan Howard.
Yeah,
that is a nice piece.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
About him too.
He's a solid rusher, but at the same time, you can't. I think the Lions' defense can stop him if you're gonna.
If that's the only guy you got to worry about, you got
right. So, by and large, I'm gonna give him a win here.
All right, and then we got at home against the Vikings. This is the Thanksgiving game.
Right, and it's the second game, our second game of the season against Minnesota. I gave him a win the first time. I'm going to give him a win the second time as well. Minnesota, as I said in the first matchup, started off last season very hot, and they really faltered towards the end of the season last year. So this is winding down the season. This is week 12, and I feel like the Lions will be able to get it done against Minnesota. Again, I think the Lions at this point in time aren't statistically eliminated from the playoffs, so I feel like with that being in mind, I think they'll come out with some fire and some passion, and I think they'll come out and beat a Minnesota team that will probably keep it close, but I think they'll come out with the win.
I also agree here. I had the Vikings winning the first game, but the Vikings seem to always get hurt with injuries towards the end, so I'm just going to already predict that they're going to have some injuries. They're going to basically be out of the chance to make the playoffs, so I got them beating them. So that means we would both have the Lions now sitting at 5-6, going in to an at Ravens game.
So this game, again, another toss-up in my opinion.
I think this one's really going to come down to coaching, to be honest.
Yeah.
I feel like we have two similar teams we're kind of looking at here.
I agree. I'm going to give the Lions the loss, mainly because they're playing on the road. They're not a good road team. The Ravens, again, kind of like the Lions over the last couple of years. They've been up and down. When they're on, they're on. When they're not, they're not. The Ravens don't have a good receiving game. The run game isn't terrible, but the receiving game is very lackluster to me. They got a guy like Joe Flacco, who's solid QB in my opinion. They've got a defense that isn't half bad, but playing on the road, I just can't see the Lions picking up a win here.
Yep, I agree. So we both got them at 5-7 now, going into what I think is going to be a huge loss, but it's also going to be a very big game. I think this is going to be a surprisingly close game for some reason. I feel like if they lose this, it's going to really hurt them, but if they win it, it's going to propel them into their chance to make the playoffs, and it's at Buccaneers. Jameis Winston's their quarterback. They've gotten a lot better. They got some receivers going. They got a much, much better defense. What are your thoughts on this?
This is going to be a tough game for us, especially on the road in Tampa. It's in December, so being in Tampa, it'll be a nice warm place to play, so they won't have to worry about the cold. But at the same time, you got a guy like Jameis Winston who's entering, I believe, his third season.
Yes.
And even though his interception rate is still always has been up over the first 2 seasons, he's really improved over the first 2 seasons he's been in the league. I believe, and don't quote me on this, he's passed for 5,000 yards or more his first 2 seasons, and which is a great accomplishment. It was either 4,000 or 5,000, so don't quote me on that. But regardless, they have a solid run game. Their offense to me is just very high powered. Honestly, I think they're a very underrated team, to be honest.
I really feel like with their receivers, Jackson, Evans,
right. They got a guy like Mike Evans, who's a top 5 receiver in my opinion.
They got Brait.
Yep, they got him, and then they got Deshaun Jackson, who they signed in the offseason. Very fast receivers, got some great hands, can really beat guys on the route. And for the Lions, you got a guy like Darius Slay who can cover one of those two. But when you don't have 2 solid corners, how are you going to cover the other one? And in my opinion, I think you're going to get beat. And don't underestimate that Buccaneers defense either. They're not half bad.
I think they're going to be they're my breakout team of the year. So I feel like they're going to be making some noise this season.
So honestly, I don't think this game will be very close. It's not going to be a blowout, but it's not going to be close, especially on the road. So I'm going to give Tampa that win.
All right, putting them at 5-8. I got Tampa getting the win as well. We are now going to be playing against the Bears again. I think we can just both agree. We'll say it right now. At home against the Bears, 4:30 start time. We're going to both agree.
Yeah, that's
Lions,
a definite win.
They're going to have that one. So now we have them at 6-8. And we're going into the last 2 games of the season where I honestly feel like you're going to lose one and you have the chance to win one because it is a team with a rich past of getting injured, and that is the Cincinnati Bengals.
So I'm going to give the Lions a win here. Even though it's on the road, the Lions, basing off what other teams do, over the past couple years, if they finish out this season, I believe we would have them at, 8-8?
Yes.
And 8-8,
if they won out.
8-8 isn't a great record, but it's not totally... Again, we don't know what other teams are going to do, but it doesn't mean they're eliminated from the playoffs. 8-8 isn't a great record, but it's not like, oh, no playoffs for sure.
Yep.
So you have a shot, so I think I'd give them the win here. Like you said, Bengals are always a team that really kind of chokes towards the end of the season. You got really inconsistent running game, even though you drafted a guy like Joe Mixon.
Yep.
Again, it's still inconsistent. A.J. Green's been up and down. Andy Dalton's been up and down. The defense has been up and down, so I'm going to give them a win here.
I'm going to have to give them the L just because I feel like the Bengals are finally going to flip the switch a little bit and really put some fire under the team, and I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I'm starting to actually believe that team has the chance, maybe as a wild card. So you're going to have them at 7-8. I'm going to have them at 6-9 going into the final game, where I think it's a loss by a long shot. We are going into the frozen tundra, Rodgers play zone.
I believe this game's actually home.
It is. Oh, it is home.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we played the Packers week 9.
Okay, never mind. Look at this. Got the Packers at home. This makes it a little easier, but we're going to be seeing the beginning. If this team does not have a great year, we're going to probably be seeing the beginning of the playoff Rodgers.
So, in my opinion, I think I'm going to kind of shock you guys here with this one, but I'm going to take a Lions victory in this one. The Lions are playing at home. Like I said, if they win this game, they'll be looking at an 8-8 season. Statistically, that doesn't mean they're eliminated from the playoffs. Again, we don't know what other teams are going to do, but if you're going into the season, we're talking about 8-8. It doesn't mean they're for sure not making the playoffs. So I think they really come out at home and they win this big game. I think the Packers will already be in the playoffs at this point. I think they'll be a for sure playoff team. So I feel like they're going to rest a lot of their starters. So I feel like the Lions will have a better shot, and I think they'll pull out the victory and finish the season 8-8.
I'll disagree with you just based on the fact I feel like the Packers are going to do what they've been doing the past few seasons, struggling a little bit, but at the end we're going to see Rodgers really come out, guns blazing. I think they're going to throttle them. I got the Lions finishing at 6-10. You got them at 8-8. 2 not very great records. I mean, you have the chance to make the playoffs with an 8-8, but I mean, then again, that's still just not a great record.
Yeah, if anything, 8-8, I would lean towards not making the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna at the end of this season, if we do finish with either one of these records or anything less, in my opinion, if we don't make the playoffs, I think there's gonna be some serious changes made. I think Caldwell will be gone. I think they'll really look at how Stafford played and decide whether he gets an extension. Ansa, if he has another season like last year, then I feel like they won't sign him, kind of like they did with Sue, and they'll just kind of almost start over, to be honest. But we'll see.
All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. We got one more thing to talk about. Not much to talk about, but tonight we're gonna watch Game 5 at Golden State. NBA Finals, Cavs, Warriors, who you got?
I got Warriors. Even though the Cavs came out last game and really played their hearts out, really showed that they did not want to be swept. The thing is, the Cavs had to play like that every game to get a win.
Yeah.
And I cannot see him playing like that again, especially on the road. And the Warriors did not play good.
No.
Curry had, I think, 14 points. Durant had some decent amount of points.
Scoreless in like the first half, basically.
Right, and Durant had some solid points, but he missed a lot of shots. Thompson was on fire, but again, when you have one guy that's really carrying the team, it's not going to work.
I feel like the team got a little like pissed off on the road. Refs are starting out with just giving LeBron.
Yeah, I think the refs were very bad. I mean, they haven't been terrible throughout the playoffs, but that game was just, it was awful. With the confusion with the Draymond Green thing, it was just.
I'm not saying just bad for the Cavs, but I mean,
right, it was bad for both teams.
The Warriors, when they're watching Cavs hit shots, they're not making shots. LeBron's getting all the calls to start the game. It's got to get under your skin. You got to get a little pissed off. I would have been pissed off. They're ejecting players, but then all of a sudden no player's getting ejected. The moment any layup or a foul happens, they're looking to see if it's a flagrant. The soft league is coming out and just showing its true colors, being soft.
Right. I feel like the refs will be better this game. I feel like the Warriors will get the win. As I said, the Cavs have to play perfect. And the thing is, in Game 4, the Cavs set a record for first quarter points, for first half points.
And it was still a close game.
Right. And they set a record for three-pointers. It's like they set all these NBA Finals records. Can you really set that expectation again for them to come out and do that in Game 5?
Exactly.
Me personally, I don't see that. I think the Warriors win here and they win it all.
Final score.
I'm gonna say about 125 to 105.
I got 117 to 105. So I'm looking at a pretty big win.
Yeah, I think the Warriors come out here and they're really hungry for that ring. Durant goes off. I think Klay Thompson goes off. I think Curry has a decent game. Draymond fills the stat sheet, and we see another Warriors championship victory.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this edition of Detroit Sports Talk, and that is all for today, guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful day.